basically what happened was I had a coworker, and he was playing basketball with his sons. He's got like a 12, 13-year-old son that's really good at basketball, and a couple of other stepsons that are pretty good-sized guys that are pretty athletic as well. And he had just turned 40, or maybe was about to turn 40. I don't remember. But anyway, he was playing with them, and he's really competitive because he was good at basketball in his day. And he injured his ankle and missed like a week of work. And so it was kind of a surprise because he never misses work for anything. And so when he was off, we were kind of like, what happened to, I'll just say his name, doesn't matter. What happened to Jerry? And we eventually found out he injured his ankle playing basketball with his kids. And so we started making jokes like, he's too old for that now. He can't be going 100% with his kids like that anymore, and all that. And to kind of not belabor the point, through this conversation, my other coworker that I'm talking about this with mentions that his wife had broken her ankle a year or so beforehand. This happened a couple of years ago. Had broken her ankle and had a wheelchair as a result. So they just had a wheelchair up in their attic. And I was like, we have to go get that wheelchair and replace his desk chair with it before he goes back. So we go and do exactly that. And I didn't realize how extravagant we were being because it just sounded like too perfect of an idea at the time. But the place where I work, so we go on lunch, we drive to his house, it's not that far, climb up in his attic, get the wheelchair, take it out, load it up in the car, and then where I work is barbed wire fencing all around the plant. You can't just drive in. It's too secure or whatever. You can't just drive in. So we have to get a special car pass, get special permission to drive a car into the plant so that, because we can't take the wheelchair through the turnstile. Drive it in, take the wheelchair out, put it in his desk, hide his regular desk chair in another coworker's cubicle, and wait on him to show up to work. No one saw us do it, so it was actually pretty perfect because we're in the middle of this huge cube farm, and nobody saw us walk in with this wheelchair and hide his desk chair and all that stuff. And so people would come around and say, "Who did that? Who did that?" It was pretty great, but anyway, that was our story.
I think it's funny you guys went through all that trouble for that. It's very like like Ocean's 11 type of stuff going on here.
So the reason I put it on Reddit at all is because there was this Ask Reddit thread that was what was a moment that made you say to yourself, okay, I've gone too far. And for me, it was after we had driven the car into the plant, parked it outside our building, and had gotten out to pull the wheelchair out of the back of his hatchback. And it was at that moment I was like, this was more extravagant than I really thought about it being. At the moment, it didn't occur to me how much we were going to have to go through to do this.
I've put more work into this than I do, just anything else this week. It's just.
So anyway, that was my moment of internet fame for the week, month, year.
So 900 upvotes, is that how it goes? Upvotes?
Upvotes. Yeah, it was almost 900. So.
That'd be cool. We should all go put a story on there.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get anything else for Reddit points, so I might as well brag about it to people who don't, since they don't matter for anything else, you might as well share them in a podcast, right?
I worked with a guy, I used to work at a college bookstore, community college bookstore, and somebody had brought in a DVD player, and that they said was broken, so we took it back, and I set it on the table in the back or whatever. Guy comes up, and he's kind of looking at it, kind of walks away. Well, I noticed the remote's still sitting there, and I thought, well, that remote still has his batteries in it, because he was like testing it out. So he plugged it in, he left it there for some reason, and I went over and got the remote, and I come over there, and he said the person said that it was opening by itself. It's like, okay, well, let's just check it. So I went around the corner, and we had like these shelves that would move. And so you could, like, those these crank shells. So I cranked the shell, kind of got behind him a little bit, act like I was doing something else. And he goes and he kind of taps it and trying to hit it. So I was like, I wonder if it's working. I hadn't checked it yet. And I hit the eject button, and he didn't touch it, and it came out. And he looked at it, and he kind of then he hit the eject button back and went back in. And then I hit it again. As soon as it popped down, popped it back out. And he's looking at it. He's like, what is going – it really does – because we all joked. I was like, ain't no way it's over by itself. And so I did this a couple times. Finally, I started, like, laughing. And he turned around. I was like, hey, I got the remote over here. And he's like, man, I hate you. But it was – we used to give – he's a cool guy. I don't want to say his name, but we used to give him a hard time.
Well,
a friend of mine – go ahead, Joe.
Oh, when I got my job back after I hurt my knee, I was walking on a cane. And one of my coworkers hid my cane from me, and I couldn't really walk without it. And I finally found it. And when I found it, I went to the bathroom, and I took about 100 paper towels and put them underneath cold water. And then I took about another 100 paper towels and wiped it around that, put that underneath cold water. And I took about 100 paper towels and put that around that wet water. And I mean, there was a trail of water going from the bathroom to the door where we worked. And I went, and he was on a phone call, and I sat there behind him. He didn't know I was behind him, and he finally hung up that call, and I put that big ball of paper towels on his head and just pushed down on it. And all this water, cold water, just came up to him. The dude weighed a good 650. He's a big feller. He was a big guy. And I'm laughing, and I'm hobbling away as fast as I can on my cane. Well, I look back, and he pushes back his chair really fast. He gets up, and you can just tell he's bulking up, like he's squaring up. He comes over, he squares up against me. So my only reaction is, I'm not going to turn around, and if he hits me, he hits me. And I turn around and just like, what are you going to do about it? And he goes and he puts his hand up in the air, and I was like, man, I'm just getting ready for this big old bear claw to come down and hit me in the face. And he just swings, and he just whiffs. He misses. And I thought he was going to fall. He missed so bad. And I crack up, and everybody else crack up, and it was just a broader water under the bridge after that. But in that moment, when he got up out of his desk, I was like, oh, no, I've gone too far. Like, that was my moment of I've gone too far.
Jared, you used to work for Parks and Rec. Man, you've had to do some pranks.
We didn't do a lot of pranks down there. When I worked at the primary school, though, we had a prank war. It was the guys versus the girls. And the thing that started it, those big, the packing airbags now that they use instead of the small ones, we took like a roll of those, so it had like 4 of them on it. And we taped them to the top of this lady's tire. And we were waiting in the parking lot, and she pulled out and rolled across those, and it sounded like a shotgun going off. And she thought she pulled out, and then all of a sudden she stopped, and it was so loud, and she thought she had broke something on her car. Like, she got out and she was checking, and we were like rolling.
Sean and my wife actually did the gym jelly keyboard. Put somebody's keyboard in Jello.
Yeah, Robin did.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, Robin did the stapler in Jello to one of her coworkers one time.
I had a buddy. He put up an ad on Craigslist, and it was about. He said, "I've got some goats I'm looking to sell," and he puts it up on Craigslist, explains why he's selling the goats or whatever he's doing, and he puts one of our coworkers' phone numbers on it. And so
my God, I remember this.
Coworker walks in, he's like. And you could tell he's just like confused. Like his face is just, he's just, something happens today that he's still trying to figure out why it's continuing to happen. So he walks in. I said, man, what's going on? He said, I had to get up this morning. He said, I had to delete all my voicemails because my memory was filled up with all these voicemails about goats. And he said, everybody was calling me about goats. And so I finally picked one up and said, sir, I don't have it. He said, well, you put a Craigslist up, an ad up on Craigslist about wanting to sell these goats, and I'm really interested in them. And he said, sir, I'm sorry. I must have been praying. And the thing about it is the guy, he sits right next to him, and the guy, he never guessed. He even asked if it was me. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to do that. And the guy, and the bad thing about the guy's talked about how much pranks he does and how much he loves doing pranks. He never guessed it, not one bit, that it was him. And it was because he would get calls like, we work in a call center, and his phone was just bzz, 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 like all the time, like just buzzing. And he was like, yeah, it was me, man. He said, it was you? And we all was like, duh. Like, he talks about doing pranks all the time. What part of that did you catch, But that was probably the best one. That was really funny.
Did you ever see the prank owl thing you could do online?
No.
I think that was the name. It was Prank Owl or something like that. What you do is you put somebody's phone number in, and you could pick a pre-recorded prank. Like there was like this one for Cat Facts that we did for Kayla, and it was hilarious. But what you do is you put that in, you put the number you want to show up, and then like when they get done with the call, you can go back and listen to it. And we did one for this guy at work, and he come down the hallway because we listened to it afterwards and we were rolling. But as soon as it was over, he comes down the hallway. He's like, "There's some Lebanese man just called my phone." He's like, he wants to know why I kicked his dog. He's like, "I didn't kick his dog. What should I do?" And he was panicking. And then, like he went on for about 2 minutes. And then this other lady, she just busted out. She couldn't take it anymore. But he used to get pranked all the time by us.
I've had that happen before. The guy that got pranked on the goat did it to me, and it was the one that was like, "Hi, sir, this is so and so from this hotel." And they do it perfectly as far as like spacing, right? They're like, "Okay, hi, how you doing?" Yeah, and he said, "I've got some extra charges for you that I don't see that you've paid yet." And he said, "I don't know how to say this, but it's some kind of pornographic movie or something." I was like, "Sir," I said, I never even stayed in your hotel or anything like that." And finally, I was like, "Wait a minute."
we done one. I used to work overnights for a company, and we would fill up like the company was bad, like cakes for us, or not for us, but for like the day shift. And they'd be sitting there for like 12 hours by the time we got into work. So it'd be like really nasty and everything. So in the mornings, when the other team would leave, like on Saturday mornings, we would hurl cakes at the window at them as they was walking through the car. We actually got in so much trouble for it, they had to screw the windows shut. So we couldn't open up the windows anymore. One time we poked a bunch of holes in a Mountain Dew and shook it up and threw it, and it spewed all over this dude when he caught it. And we had the window open. He had to throw it out the window. But we put a can of sardines in this guy's car one time.
Oh man!
And he didn't know it was in there for like 3 months. Like it was that long. and he dropped this can of chewing backer down underneath the seat, and he went to reach, and he thought he picked up that chewing backer, and he put his fingers right in those sardines. I had him in tears one night. It was the same dude, and I moved his car, and it was literally up under a street light that you could see from the window if you looked at the window. And he thought somebody stole his car because he always left the keys in it. And he was going to call the cops. And we're like, "Brandon, have you looked everywhere?" He's like, No, I haven't looked everywhere. I'm going to call the cops. Somebody stole my car. I'm like, "Look out the window, dude." And he finally looks out the window. But the same dude that I'd done the paper towel prank to, I took like 18 rolls of toilet paper from the bathroom and done the whole inside of his car, stole his keys, unlocked his car, done the whole inside of his car in toilet paper, locked the keys back, and I was wrapping the whole outside of his car in toilet paper, and I was on the very last part, which is the antenna. I was going up and down on that antenna, and a cop pulled up and spotlighted me, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm pranking a coworker. And he's like, "What's his name?" And I told him his name, and he ran the license plate. He said, "I'm not calling this in on the cell phone, so I don't go out through the radio." So he called it in. He's like, "I got a blah, 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 saying that he's pranking blah, blah, blah. Run this license plate." And it came back, and he's like, I'm going to let them know that this isn't vandalism. You have a good night." And I was like, "Oh, my God. Like, this is so awesome." And, like, the next morning, that guy came out. He was so mad. He's like, "What the heck happened to my car?"
And that's exactly how he sounds too. Like that's exactly how the guy sounded.
And he just turned enough of the toilet paper off so he can get in his car, sat on the toilet paper that was in his car, drove down the road, and there were strips of toilet paper following him as he was driving down the road. It was great.
I forgot one little detail of our prank too. So on top of putting the wheelchair at his desk, we also printed out a little mini packet of like a flyer for those lifts for old people that take them upstairs. And that one's actually still hanging in his office. Obviously, we got rid of the wheelchair after a little bit.
That's great.
That's great. That's
We got a
hilarious.
good laugh out of that one. I think we could probably go on about pranks for a long time because
we need to start the episode. So
I got one more, a quick one.
He's always got one more.
Which usually turns into 4 more.
No, this is my last one, I promise. When I first started night shift, there was a guy that worked with me, and for 10 years that he worked there, he always told people, be like, when you go down the 5th floor, use the bathroom, you always go get snacks if people want snacks. And I'd be like, I'm going to the bathroom. Does anybody want a snack or anything? And he goes, yeah, bring me back a urinal cake. And he had been saying it for like 10 years. So I went down there, and I took some paper towels, and I flushed that toilet 1,000 times. And I took those paper towels and reached down in there and got that urinal cake out of that urinal and wrapped it up in those paper towels. And I came up to him and I threw something at him. He's like, what is this? And he didn't even have to catch it. He smelt it as it was flowing. He's like, you got me a urinal cake. He's like, I've been asking 10 years for people to get me a urinal cake, and you're the first one to do it. I said, hey, We also put that car in that same person's car that we put the sardines in. So
no wonder that person hated your guys' guts.
Nah, he didn't hate us. He was fun.
All right. Well, welcome to episode number 75. Not actually 76 of the Monsters of Geek podcast.
Wait, what?
Whoa, not 76. I'm sorry. Episode number 46. Jared, man, you've been gone for a long time.
I missed a lot.
It's episode 46 of the Monsters of Geek podcast. I'm your editor-in-chief, Aaron. With us tonight, we've got Andrew, we've got Yeti, and we've got Jared on. It's Jared. Yes, we've got Jared on today's episode. So if you see a chart, I told him before he came out, I said we're gonna put a charge on this one because Jared makes it premium content. Jared, let's start with you, man. Where have you been? What have you been doing? You know, you've been on covert missions for the United States government. What have you been up to?
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
It's where haven't I been? We took 16 days and went across the country.
Oh, cool.
We got to see I can't remember how many national parks, but we went up through South Dakota and Wyoming and down through California, Nevada, Utah. So it was a lot of fun.
Should you make a movie? Call it Across the United States in 16 days?
No, we got a lot of pictures, but not a lot of video.
Yeah, if for ones that don't know, Jared's wife Robin is a photographer. Robin Collins Photography, and she posted some awesome pictures. The one with the starry night was pretty sweet. That she took. That was awesome. Yeah,
we were actually in Red Rock Canyon. We were camping there that night, and it was about 10 o'clock, and you could just see the Milky Way starting to pop out. And she's like, "I've got to get this." Took a long exposure shot, and she probably got 20 of them that she've tried, and got a couple good ones there. But yeah, we saw Yellowstone, the Grand Tetons.
Whoa, Jared!
Devil's Tower, Badlands, Yosemite, and then there's some national parks I hadn't even heard of, but they were all. It was something to experience.
What was your favorite thing you saw? Like just one thing
Yosemite.
You was like, Yosemite, yeah, I've heard Yosemite's pretty awesome.
Yeah. That I'd like to fly back out and like spend a week like camping in the back country there, because we only got to spend about 4 hours really. But other than that, there was I can't think of I think it was Capitol Reef National Park. It was up about 10,000 feet. I think it's Capitol Reef. It might not be. It was right there in southern Utah in the Dixie National Forest, and man, it was just beautiful. You're about 10,000 feet, and you've got the aspen trees up there, and the air is crisp.
Was it hard to breathe?
Yeah. The first time we were going over, I think we were in South Dakota, going over between Wyoming and South Dakota, going over the mountain to get ready to go into Devil's Tower. Maybe it was after we'd already hit Devil's Tower in the middle of Wyoming. But we went across the mountain, and we stopped at the top because we were going to take some pictures. And I got out, and I mean, you just walked up this little hill, and all of a sudden I'm like, I can't breathe. I didn't think, 8,000, 9,000 feet would make that big of a difference, but holy crap, it was awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to Denver, and it was like, after a while, I was like, man, I just can't breathe. Like, I just – no wonder people have a hard time playing, football and basketball up here. It's so thin.
Mm-hmm.
You guys went to Disneyland, Jared, right?
Yes, Disneyland. It was
how's the West Coast version of Disneyland, or Disney, I should say, the West Coast brand?
I've never been the East Coast, so I can't compare. But
I haven't either.
I think it was a little less crowded, but still, I mean, like to ride the Matterhorn, there was like a 2-hour wait. Lucy got to meet Peter Pan.
Oh, cool.
That was her big goal. She gave him a thimble, just like in the movie. So. We spent all morning trying to do that, and Molly got to meet, or they all got to meet Tinkerbell, and then we had breakfast with Minnie, and the kids loved that.
Jared, did they have a midget playing Tinkerbell?
No, it was you go into Tinkerbell's forest or whatever, and you shrink down to her size because the grass is so tall and everything.
Oh, okay.
So you're transported there to Neverland.
Why did you even ask that? Like, what prompted you to ask that?
A midget. They have a midget playing Tinkerbell.
Oh my God.
I was just wondering.
Oh, jeez.
Could you imagine if they did?
No, because
she'd be too big to be like a full-size Tinkerbell.
This little person's walking around selling gold dust on people.
Oh man, these candid moments that makes podcasts, right? I don't know.
He's cracking himself up.
I'm picturing it in my head.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad you had a good time, man. I actually texted you. I couldn't remember how long you guys were going to be gone. So I texted you. I think you had just pulled in.
Yeah.
When
I kept getting texts. Like, the weird thing about traveling on the West Coast is, like, even in California, you'd get out away from one of the towns, no internet access, or no data whatsoever. Right. Which I found kind of weird. So
you're kind of off the grid, man.
Oh yeah, like you'd pop in, pop out, pop in, pop out. It was kind of crazy. Once we hit Texas and back into Oklahoma, like we never lost it again.
Wow.
But like Saturday coming back, we drove 1,170 miles. Just that from midnight to midnight. But we drove 7,700 or 7,800 miles total.
Dang.
Round trip.
Ooh.
So
did you drive the whole way?
Yep. Well, I mean,
Nice.
I didn't. We split time, but like 3 nights we drove completely through the night.
Dang.
It was an experience, though.
Dedicated.
There's some places I want to go back to.
You should have went to a PWG show while you was so close to. They're in LA, right?
We stayed the night in Anaheim, but then we got up and went to Seal Beach, and which is right next to Huntington Beach, and then got up and went to Vegas. So we went to the beach and then left at noon or about 2 after we ate lunch and headed straight to Vegas.
How was Vegas?
It was kind of disappointing. I mean,
it's just it's just one strip, right? I mean, it's just
you have depends on what you want to see. Like the regular Vegas Strip is like the new one that they've kind of built up. It's got the Bellagio and all the stuff on it. But the one you see in the movies, that's actually the old Strip. With the big cowboy that lights up and everything. So we didn't get to go on that one. I was like, I'd like to go there one more time, maybe just to like stay on the old section.
Yeah.
Just to say, to walk that and see the big neon cowboy and everything.
That's where people's kneecaps still get knocked out, right? In old Vegas.
I don't know, maybe.
I'd like to go.
I think
that's where the good fellas hang out.
There's some things you might want to cover your eyes in old Vegas. That's what I hear.
I'd like to go.
Or you might not want to, depending on who you are.
it's cool if you're going there for that, right?
You just might see a midget wearing Tinkerbell.
I knew it. I wasn't gonna say anything. I was gonna make a joke, but I didn't want to say anything.
Hey, we saw Michael Jackson taking pictures on the street, and there were we walked past several ladies giving away.
Whoa, easy there,
stuff on the street.
Hello.
Don't leave that thing that's open ended in Vegas, man. You don't want to.
Hey, Jared,
they were drumming up business for whatever place they were working for.
Oh,
Jared,
gotcha. Their establishment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jared,
Not
what kind of business were they working for?
not escort
gentlemen's establishment,
Jared. Some of them could have been.
They sold computer products.
Oh yeah.
They actually advertise like they for several of those gentlemen's clubs that they'll like come pick you up at your hotel and take you to the place in a limo.
Hey, let me tell you, I've heard
just to get your business.
I've heard they have some good roast beef and some prime rib at some of those places.
That's what I hear, but I didn't get to try the buffet.
Well, did Michael Jackson have an IV bag?
No, he looked a lot like Michael Jackson though.
Maybe it was. Maybe he faked his death.
Maybe, so he could live out in Vegas.
Maybe it was
he was
really
in
Janet
New Vegas.
Jackson.
Oh, he's in New Vegas. Okay, gotcha.
He was outside the M&M store.
Like the rapper?
Cool.
No,
Eminem has his own store on the Vegas Strip.
Mom spaghetti. That's what they serve. What's the special today, Eminem? Mom spaghetti.
Jeez. Andrew, what have you been up to, man? Save us from Joe's lunacy.
Yeah. Well, I first of all,
Jerry, we're glad you had a good time and we missed you, man. Just want to tell you, just want to shoot that out there for you.
Nothing nearly as cool as what Jared has been up to. So let's just get that out of the way. I have been wandering around the country, but it was the video game world, and it was full of robot dinosaurs.
Hey, I played a little bit of that too this weekend.
Yeah, so I got you played a little bit of it.
You played a lot of it.
I got the platinum trophy. So, yeah, Horizon is good. I don't really think it's as good as people think it is, but it is good. So I'm not gonna crap on it because it's really good. But it felt like a pretty standard, fair open world game to me for the most part.
So you finished it. You guys said you got the platinum, right?
Yes, I'm done. Beat it. And actually, I powered through it so hard that after I beat the last mission, I had to go back and grind a little bit to get to the level cap so that I could get the last trophy.
Oh, gotcha.
So I was flying, but
it's a really good game, man.
It is.
It took me a little bit after playing Zelda because I died like 3 times starting off because I couldn't figure out. I kept hitting the L3 button to crouch. And I stayed crouched, and I was like, "Why is this not working?" And I hit square, and I was like, "Oh, because square's crouching on L3."
Yeah, I think it's really hard to play that game in a post Zelda world for me because not being able to climb. Like, I know that sounds like a small thing to so many people, but when you've been able to climb everything, and now all of a sudden the only things you can climb are yellow or guano covered crevices, like, it drives me crazy.
It's really weird because it's a really good game and I really like it. I think the combat is 100 times better than what Zelda is.
It definitely is.
And the UI is better as far as how you get to things and equip things and stuff like that. It is much better, but it's almost Zelda almost made a game that came out was a week before it did, or 2 weeks before it.
Horizon came out first.
Yeah, a week before Zelda did, almost like an old game. Like it almost feels like
I think it did, but sorry.
Yeah, so it's crazy how 2 games can come out at the same time, and it's just a good game. I'm not trashing it because I'm not by any stretch because I'm working on it myself. But it just seems like you go up to this wall, and man, I really, really wish that I could climb this. and it almost felt like Zelda just made it feel a little bit old. Like it was released like 2 years before Zelda, instead of like a week.
Yeah, it was infuriating to me, and it probably shouldn't bother me as much as it did. But to walk up to a cliff that I know I need to climb, and then know that I have to walk around in circles until I find the, like I said, the either yellow clip handholds that people have put in, or the guano covered handholds that are quote unquote naturally there. I call them guano covered because they're white and that's how you see them. But
so bat pooped on them.
it looks like guano, yeah. So that's what I'm calling it. I don't know what it is, but it's my way of pun intended pooing on the game. So I mean, it shouldn't be too hard of a knock on it, but it did bother me quite a bit. Like, just it really got at me. And then, of course, being up at the top of something and then wanting to be like, well, now I just want to paraglide down, and I can't do that either. Right. I'm not going to hold that one against it at all, because that's just not part of their mechanic, and that's fine. It is what it is. I'm not mad at them about that, but it was still just like, some of the fun of Zelda was like climbing up to the top of something, finding something at least mildly interesting or useful at the top of whatever you just climbed, and then looking around at the top and being like, what landmark do I want to go to next? And then flying halfway there.
Yep.
So I don't want to hold it against it too much, but there were parts of it that bothered me. So
there's parts of it. I mean, it's a good game, and like I said, the combat is really where it's at. I really like the combat, the slow down mechanic, and I never liked games with bows and arrows, and this game makes it obviously a lot better. Like, it makes the bow and arrow seem like a gun to a certain extent. Like, it's easier to shoot, easier to aim. It's really the controls are really tight with it. That I've even without using the slow mechanic, I find myself I can shoot it pretty fast and hit my target, which is very satisfying as far as combat goes. One of the things that I was in, there's these places in what they called in the caves. I keep forgetting, the cauldrons that you can go to. And I went through the first cauldron, and I died a couple times, and because I suck at video games. And so I finally, there's this big turtle thing, like this big robot turtle looking thing that carries stuff, but it can shoot like lightning and stuff. And one thing that I did that it was a little bit boring, but I got it done, was you can hide from these things. So, I would run up and I got above it and I'd shoot it a couple times, and I'd run behind something and it would just sit there and kind of look around and not find me and go all the way back. Then I go boom, 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 and I shoot again, and it comes. So there are some things that I feel like mechanical wise that you can kind of take advantage of in that game. The hiding mechanic is a little bit like they would be right there on top of you and not see you a lot of times. And and all you are just in these weeds. It's not necessarily like it's in a great hiding space, but I feel like they need to work on that just a little bit, make it a little bit more similar, or a little bit more, I guess, better as far as making it a little more realistic there. But one thing I do like about it, and Andrew, maybe you can talk about this too, is like every battle you do feels like a boss battle. Like, it just feels like, I mean, those things, as far as like the big, especially the bigger ones, like this big long neck thing that you can climb up and look on. There's like this, they're all kind of designed like dinosaurs, but some of those, I mean, it just takes a while to beat them, and it's super satisfying to get the parts and scavenge for parts and stuff once you take down like a big kind of robot dinosaur.
So two super cool encounters that I'll tell, and one of them was was probably pretty common because they basically set it up so that you could do this, and that's, you go into this valley, and there are two thunder jaws, which are basically T-Rexes, wandering around, like, prowling their little area or whatever. And it's basically set up so that you can override one of them, because you can take control. Spoiler alert, I guess. You can take control of, or not control, but you can override one of them so that they'll be on your side. They'll fight for you. And so it's basically set up so that you go into this canyon, you override one of them, and then you watch two T-Rexes fight each other. So that was just pretty cool on its own, because they're like, just beating the crap out of each other, which is pretty awesome. But like, that one is basically set up so that happens. They designed it that way, more or less, or at least that would be my belief. So I'm sure tons and tons of people, most people who played that game, I would say, have had that experience. My other one was, and I'd forgotten about it until you mentioned it, was I was doing one of those long necks. And like you said, it's something with a long neck. And you basically have to use the environment to get a little bit higher so that as it's walking by, you can jump on its back, because you can't just climb up its legs because its legs are moving. So you have to get, kind of a bit of a vantage point and then jump onto it and then climb its neck and override it that way. And that's all well and good. So one of the first ones I did was in this like swampy kind of area, and there are or what are those, snap moths or what they're called, but they're basically, if you haven't played the game, they're basically like robot alligators, and they're pretty big and they're pretty mean. And I think I'd fought maybe one before. I don't remember if I'd fought any. No, one is a boss in one of the cauldrons, and I'd fought it in there. So I'd only fought one, and there were like 4 around, and I was running around. I was like, this is not working. I'm not properly equipped to be fighting these. I really just want to get this long neck and get the heck out of here, because like I think I've told it on here before, in an open world game, I like to fill out the map before I do a whole bunch of other stuff. So I was like, well, I'll just get this vantage point. I'll time it right so that I can just get to the top of it and jump onto the long neck, climb up to the top, be done, get out of here, and move on with my life. So it works. I time it right. I get on the long neck and I start climbing, get next level. And then all of a sudden I get knocked off, and I'm like, what the crap happened? And one of the snap moths had climbed up to the same vantage point that I was on and jumped so high, because those things can jumped high enough to be able to hit me and knock me off of the long neck and back onto the ground. I was like, crap. So I think I ended up dying and then getting reset. And then once I reset, I didn't get caught, and I was able to just climb it and be fine. But it was like, this thing went flying through the air to get me. I was really pretty high up. Yeah.
It's, I mean, the world, I mean, I do like the world an awful lot. I think you've done a really good job of kind of building the narrative. And there's some pretty cool moments, like, when you climb to when I climbed to the first long neck, I thought, holy crap, man, like that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's a good game. I think definitely a game of the year category for a lot of people. But Zelda just does so much to kind of bring. I can't wait till the next one comes out, because I feel like it's going to be more Zelda-like as far as letting you do what you want to do. So it's a good, it's a good game. I'm really enjoying it myself. So.
So I do want to throw out some compliments, because I was mostly critical. Those 2 experiences were pretty good. Like you said, the combat is better in Horizon than in Zelda, so that's another thing that it does better. The story is wicked, awesome, cool.
Awesome.
It hits a few of your typical kind of video game tropes, I guess, but it was really good. I really liked the story. Side missions weren't that great, but I'm trying to compliment it. So and
side missions do feel like a little bit more work.
Yeah.
And that's, so I guess that's one criticism of any open world game, even something like Red Dead Redemption. I love. Yeah, it does feel like it's more of a job system more than anything else to do the side missions. But the world itself is so fun to explore, and what are you going to run into, and how are you going to, it almost like it has a lot of strategy to it, in the sense that, like Andrew said, sometimes you're just not equipped to go after these things, and in order to stay alive, you got to kind of figure out how to get by them without, making them mad or knowing that you're there. So,
but anyway, and I'm trying to compliment it, and so the combat's good, the story's good, and what's not to love about robot dinosaurs? In truth, like, robot dinosaurs. Come on, guys. Who doesn't want to play a game with robot dinosaurs in it?
Yeah, I mean, that was the hook, and they definitely took that and ran with it. I think the main character is really good. Alloy is a super cool character. It's just a cool world to run around in. It's a gorgeous game. Like, it's probably one of the better looking games you'll ever see. But I agree, Andrew. I'm really enjoying it. I'll finish it off, and maybe we'll have a spoiler cast or something. Who knows? Joe, Yeti, what's up, man? What have you been up to?
Other than playing PlayerUnknown, nothing.
But you've got pretty good in duos with that game, haven't you?
Yeah, we're pretty good. We got a few chicken dinners, and we probably finish in probably about the top 20 every time. So that's out of 50 teams, so it's not too bad. I say top 15 most of the time.
I still have it, and I guess I won't now. Now it's like an Xbox exclusive or Xbox One exclusive. But that's pretty much all you've been playing.
That and yeah, that's about it.
That and yeah, okay.
Well, I've been playing a little bit of Civ too. I had to get on to try and fix my picture on my Civ, which is a really funny story. It was opening up in a really small box, probably about the size, I say about a 12-inch square on a 55-inch TV, and or a 50-inch TV, and I didn't know what was going on with it. So I finally I was like this close to the TV because the words were so small on it, and I got it fixed. It's finally full size, and then I went to play a game, and it is zoomed in, and I'm like, man, what is going on with this picture? So I'm like changing everything on the settings of the game. I went to Steam to see if they had any more settings. Went to the forums to see what they were doing. Went to my computer settings and I was looking around, and nothing worked. And then it automatically dawned on me after I spent like an hour and a half changing all these settings that I hadn't even checked my picture ratio on my television. And it was set to 16:9, which zoomed it in a little bit, and I moved it to custom, and it zoomed it right back out where it needed to be. I was like, really? I couldn't have thought of that first after spending an hour and 30 minutes of technical stuff on here. Yeah, so it was pretty funny, but yeah, it's a great game. I love Civ too.
Well, it seems like Player Unknown, people would say, that's a game that I just always play. Like, it's just calling my name. So,
well, if I'm by myself playing it, it's usually Civ. But once my buddy gets on, he wants to play duos. I'll play. It's a lot funner when you have somebody to play with. I mean, I like playing by myself, but it's a lot harder because you're going up against like 100 people, and I finished probably 40, maybe 30, somewhere in there. I've not gotten close to the top 15 or top 20 yet, but yeah, it's rough. I mean, getting to 40 is something because you beat half the field that was in there. So, but it's a really fun game. I think it surpassed Counter-Strike this weekend with the most plays. I think it was over like 200,000.
Mm-hmm. I know a couple weeks back it broke like the most live streams in one day or something like that, or at one time. I think it was like it beat Minecraft or something at some point.
I don't think Xbox people are gonna like it because it's not Call of Duty. You can sit and camp in one spot in Call of Duty or some of those other games, and in Player Unknown you can't camp, you can't sit because it moves you. Because it shrinks, and I just don't know. I just don't know if some of those Call of Duty bros will like it too much.
But we'll see. I mean, they paid him a lot of money for the exclusive rights to it, so I'm sure.
I mean, it's a great game.
It's just different. I mean, that's what people say. It's like it's just different. Like you're going to have to get used to the mechanics a bit more.
It's tiered toward PC. I'd be interested to see how it does on the console. I really would. Because there's a lot of things that you have to do. I'm kind of happy that's going to console to a point because there's some controller schematics, and I know I'm probably going to get slack for this because I don't use mouse and keyboard. But I play in a dark room. I can't see my mouse, or I can't really see my keyboard that much. So I'm always hitting wrong buttons. So I started playing with just a controller. And the schematics, because it's not made to use a controller for. And people go on there and they'll put schematics on it you can download. It's a good schematic. I like it, but there's so much more that you can do with the keyboard.
The mouse and keyboard, yeah.
And I still have a keyboard like right there because it's quicker for me to switch my guns. It's quicker for me to load my guns, stuff like that. If I do that with the mouse and keyboard, but I'll move around and stuff with my controller. It's just so much easier for me to move around and look around when I'm running and see if people's around me or not.
Right.
So,
well, cool, man. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It seems like it's definitely I guess one of those games that I don't know if you can say it's game of the year because it's not finished, but I'm not really for sure how that's going to work out in game of the year list. But it seems like a lot of people in the game industry is really eating that up. in that
I
game
mean,
too.
Even not finished and polished. I mean, it's a great. It's a fun. It's a really fun game to be still in beta and still being tested. So
Cool.
Mhm.
All right. Well, it's good to have everybody here tonight, and we're going to move into our.
Not everybody's here.
Oh yeah, Daniel's not here. So I think when's the last time we had everybody on the podcast? I can't remember.
Like
It
3 years
only
ago.
happened once.
Like
It
3
was a
years
really
ago.
good episode, but it only happened once.
Only happened once. That should have been the premium episode.
It's been
It
like
was
2 months.
Yeah.
It was so long ago that wasn't even a podcast. So
So if you're new to the show, I've obviously you just listened to our opening there, and then we like to kind of catch up and see what everybody's playing and watching, or in this case, traveling across the country and fighting bears and stuff like Jared did. Yeah, so that's our first part of the episode. Now we're going to move into the topic portion of the episode, where we bring some topics to the table and we discuss them a little bit. We have 2 topics this evening. We'll start off with Andrew's topic because I think it's really, really cool and very, creative, because I never would have thought about this. So, Andrew, go ahead.
I stole it from someone, so let's do that.
Andrew, I'm propping you up.
I don't remember.
I
can't be dishonest. That's not the thing I want to do. I can't remember where I stole it, but I stole it from somewhere. So I can be honest and say it's not an original idea. I cannot properly credit the source. So there you go. Anyway, my topic is, if you could change the outcome of one sporting event in history, what would it be? And of course, why? So I've kind of waffled on my answer. I know we're all Tennessee fans in here, right? So
except for Jared, because he's a loser.
Jared's not. Okay.
He's a North Carolina football fan. I didn't know he played football in North Carolina.
Well, the good news is he's probably not going to give a North Carolina football answer. What major sporting event have they ever played in?
They beat Florida State one time, or a couple times, maybe. I can't remember.
They beat them a couple times.
Well, you wouldn't change those.
They almost came back and beat Clemson 2 years ago.
Oh, almost 2 years ago. Oh, man.
Yeah. Whew, close.
I bet Jared's going to come be like in North Carolina croquet in the year of 1946. It was.
They won a lot of national championships.
I think the answer that comes to mind for Tennessee fans, though, and Aaron, I know this occurred for you, so if this is your answer, I'll let you take it from here. But it was the first one that came to my mind, and I changed my mind later for reasons. But the 2001 SEC championship game.
That's fine.
Yeah. So do you want to talk? I'll let you take the lead on that.
Yeah, we had a fantastic team that year, and we played. I mean, it's probably one of the best all-around teams I think Tennessee has ever had, as far as offensively and defensively. We were fast, we were mean, we were big, and we just and that was during a time where the SEC East was still really good. Georgia was good, Florida was good. We had beat Alabama, LSU, so we was just the top dogs, man. Casey Clausen was our quarterback. We had Kelly Washington, Dante Stallworth. I mean, our offense was just ridiculous and really hard to stop. And we ran through the regular season. I think we had maybe a couple tough games, but really we kind of dominated everyone we played. And we were undefeated. We was 10-0. We were heading into LSU game for the SEC title game, and we beat LSU earlier in the year. Nick Saban was still at LSU. Actually, I think maybe it was his second year, third year or something. I can't remember, him coming down from Michigan State. And man, that game still makes me sick. Just talking about it still makes me sick. I even looked it up just to make sure I had the right score right, and though I had the year right, and I was like, man, like I just didn't. Luckily, there wasn't a lot on the Wikipedia page to read, so I didn't, make myself, worse. But we were up, I think, 17-0 or something like that, 13-0 heading in the half, and they had this big quarterback. His name was Rohan Davey, and much like LSU during that time, they always had these big, burly quarterbacks that just launch it, man. I mean, he just had a rocket. And I think it was, I want to say Kevin Burnett, maybe. I can't remember who hit him out. No, was Burnett? No, Burnett wasn't. I can't remember who it was. He was one of our linebackers. And he was running out of bounds, and we just killed him. And obviously got a flag, but we knocked him out of the game. And I don't think it was a malicious hit. It was just close to the sideline. The dude had some wheels for a big guy, so you had to hit him. I mean, you just couldn't tap him out of bounds. You really had to hit him. He reminded me a lot of Ben Roethlisberger in the sense of how big he kind of was. And so he was running towards the sideline, and he acted like he was going to go up the sideline and stepped out of bounds. The guy just killed him. Like, he just absolutely murdered him. And so he ends up going out of the game, and they put in this little probably 6 foot, 5'10", 6 foot, somewhere around that nature. Is Matt Mock, I think, was who they put in. And
that is who it was. Yeah.
And, me and Andrew, we joke about how Tennessee – they could be beating a team 60-0 in the third quarter, and then they put in a running quarterback, and we just can't. We just lose all sense of how to play defense at all. And they put this kid in there, and he was, Davey was mobile, but he wasn't like somebody's going to run a 60-yard touchdown on you. Mock was one of those guys that could just run around and remind me a lot of Doug Flutie in the sense that he could just run around and make plays, and he was really hard to stop, and he didn't mind to get in there and get hit between the tackles. And they ended up beating us 31-21, 31-20 maybe, I think was the final score. But they played a heck of a ball game in the second half, and I was so sick. I mean, it was just – I remember we was actually at somebody else's house, and I just was like, I'm just going home. Like, I think we were staying at our Sunday school teacher's house, and they had like a little lock-in type of thing at their house. And I just it was like, all right, let's play games. I was like, no, I'm going to bed. And I went downstairs and went to bed. Like, I was so upset. I woke up the next morning and was like, man, I cannot believe this happened. Like, we should have. I mean, and the big thing, obviously you want to win an SEC championship, but it knocked us out of the national championship. We would have went and played Miami, and Miami ended up killing Nebraska. But I always thought, and me and Andrew kind of discussed this when he brought up the topic at church, I always thought Tennessee, because we had John Henderson and Albert Haynesworth, that team. We had a lot of NFL caliber talent as well. And I thought that – I don't know if we would have won that game, but it would have been much more competitive. I think we would have stayed in the game because that Miami team was obviously stacked. But I just – and to be quite honest, Tennessee kind of always had Miami's number. I mean, you go back to the Sugar Bowl when they were supposed to destroy us, and we ended up destroying them in the Sugar Bowl in 84, maybe 86, I can't remember. 84, I believe. And then, years after, I think it was 03 season, Andrew, we went down and broke their home winning streak in Miami. They beat us in Knoxville between that. I think the next year they went to national championship. They actually came down and beat us in Knoxville or something pretty bad. But
the year before they beat us in Knoxville.
Yeah, that's
like 23-6 or something. Just manhandled Tennessee. It was awesome.
But I thought that we would have played them really tough, and it would have been interesting because there was a lot of NFL caliber talent on both sides. But we never found out because stupid LSU and Nick Saban and his adjustments to beat us at halftime. So it was
so.
Not very happy.
On the one hand, I do agree because Tennessee did have some good talent, but Miami's roster in 2001.
It was unbelievable.
I believe this could be the greatest college football team of all time. It's up there. Ken Dorsey, he didn't do much in the NFL, but still.
Good college quarterback.
Yeah. Najee Davenport, Clinton Portis, Jeremy Shockey, Andre Johnson. They're probably good offensive linemen, but I don't know their names. And these are just the starters. Jonathan Vilma, Ed Reed. It's on and on. Like, it's unreal. Frank Gore was a freshman on that team. Like, he didn't even play. Frank Gore. So I just don't know, and that's the reason it's not my answer to this question, but I get why it is yours, because it was the first game that came to my mind as well.
Yeah, and we kind of discussed, and that was, I'm not saying Tennessee took a nosedive after that, but it just seemed like Tennessee was never the same after that. We would get close, and I think we got to two more, not national championship, but SEC title games within that time. And we just kind of lost our ability to win the big game as far as championship goes. It's like the SEC title game became a roadblock. Like we just could never get past it. And we still to this day, have a hard time, trying to get back there and stuff like that. But it just seemed like Tennessee lost a little bit of mystique. It's like, and Saban tends to do that to teams. Like, he just destroy, he comes out, he beats them, and next thing you know, the next year, like, holy crap, like, what happened? Like, like we're not the same. We don't tend to have the same swagger that we had. Tennessee, during that time, we'd won a national champion in '98. We had played really well up to that point, and that team was just something special, and it just, couldn't get the job done. It's still, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm getting sick again. Jared, what game would you change?
The Tuck Rule game.
Oh,
Patriots
good
Raiders.
Good answer.
Since I'm a huge Raiders fan, that game still makes me sick. I remember watching it and seeing the sack and Brady drop the ball, and celebrating, and then they go to instant replay, and it all falls apart from there. They get the ball back, kick the field goal, send it to overtime, and kick another field goal to win it. But
Was that the first year for instant replay?
I believe so. Yeah, that was 2000 AFC Championship game. Yeah, I still call it a fumble. No, it was 2000.
Brady was in college in 2000. Pretty sure.
Because 2001, it was the year before they went to the maybe in 2001. Because it was the year before they went to the Super Bowl.
You are right. It is 2001. So it was the 2000 season, maybe?
Yeah. It started it was the 2000, technically, I guess, 2000 AFC Championship game.
No, it was the 2001 season. It happened in January 19th, 2002.
Oh, okay. I knew it was some because I knew the next year that it was the year they went to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I still think I still think it was a fumble.
It was.
For the record, it was. Yeah, there's no way that wasn't a fumble.
I mean, even with the tuck rule, I mean, you could look back on it and he wasn't tucking. I mean, or he was tucking, but he wasn't throwing. He wasn't in a throwing motion.
That was what the call was, right? That he was going forward, and there's no way. I mean,
they said he was going forward in a pass, and he was bringing it down into his stomach to try to
pump fake.
He was getting ready to take the hit.
Yeah,
he wasn't. I mean, he was bringing it down because he was getting ready to take the hit, and they knocked it out, and they said it was going forward with a pass.
The 99 season, I think, was – so I guess it was the 2000 season because they adjusted it. So I think the 2000 season was the first time they had brought it back.
So, yeah, to me, the way I remember it, and I haven't gone back and looked in a little bit, but the way I remember it is Brady pump fakes. He brings it down.
Yep.
And, like, the pump fake is long gone and over with and done. Yep. And then he gets – and so to me, it's like, all right, so if that's the tuck rule – then the first thing a quarterback should always do as soon as he takes the snap is pump fake.
Is pump fake.
And then he can never fumble. It's over. You cannot fumble anymore. That always drove me nuts. So I'm with you. Good answer.
Yeah, he had been in the pocket for a second and pump faked, and then the pressure was coming, and he was bringing it down to,
because the ball was down near like his navel.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the ball, he was bringing it down into his stomach. It's not like he was in a throwing motion whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that'll drive you crazy.
So I think it was the Ringer that did I can't remember what they call it, but it was basically like a in memoriam of the tuck rule game. And they had like the head of officiating at the time and a few other people that they did interviews with and kind of given a moment by moment, because the head of officiating was in, I guess, whatever city, the NFC Championship, I guess St. Louis, for the NFC Championship game. And so he was watching it in a hotel room, and he had almost gone to bed or something. I can't remember all of it, but he said, and I knew immediately that it was the tuck rule, that's what had happened. And I still swear that there's conspiracy behind it because the Raiders are so hated. And Al Davis earned some of that, so there's that part of it. But because to me, if I can recall, that the booth started talking about the tuck rule, and nobody'd heard of it before, and it was almost like they were pushing.
What's a tuck rule?
They were forcing the tuck rule, and it's like, hey, this is our moment. I don't want to go too crazy off rails.
When they were in instant replay, I remember them talking about it, and it was like, they were going all crazy about, oh, it's not a fumble. And I was like, what are you talking about? You want to yell at the TV?
Yeah.
It's frustrating, but yeah.
Yeah.
That was definitely, I didn't know what you was gonna pick, Jared, but that's a good one. That's something
a very good one. I wish I'd thought of it, because that would have been my answer if I'd thought of it. But now, I don't know. What about Joe?
Joe, what about you, man?
Man, I thought and thought and thought. There's two basketball games that I thought about, and then I looked back and I was like, the 2014 divisional playoff game between the Cowboys and the Packers, the non-catch game.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad you acknowledge it as a non-catch.
It wasn't a non-catch. It was a catch. So I would go back and change that game. Even though the two basketball games that I changed, one of them was rigged, legitimately rigged. And the other one, I just would like to see the other team in the championship. But
Well, what made the Cowboy one went over? Like,
because the Cowboys are my team. I mean
Of
that
course.
was it. The other two was the Jailbird Portland team versus the Lakers in 2000, and the other one was the 2002 Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals, where it was rigged, where Donaghy and his crew rigged that game for the Lakers to win.
Yeah, it was a good game.
And like I think,
Of course it was, Andrew. Of course it was.
No, I remember.
Lakers,
I remember even as a Lakers fan watching that, thinking, "Oh my gosh, what is going on?"
Yeah,
It was just
they came back.
as a Lakers.
They came back from 16 in like the fourth quarter or something like that.
Yeah,
To avoid elimination. But no,
crazy.
I guess because I really didn't have a high stake in those teams. Just looking back, I would have liked to see Portland in the conference championship in Sacramento, just to see what would have happened in the landscape if that would have happened, and when those teams would have been in the finals. But the Dallas Cowboys game, I think that one, because it was a catch. That was a catch. I don't care
was
what
a
anybody
catch.
says. It was
Yeah.
a catch. It was just like Des or Calvin Johnson's the first game of the season that year when they ruled that a non-catch against the Bears, and it was a catch. Des Bryant caught the ball. Calvin Johnson caught the ball that game too. It was
Well,
a
but
bad
if he
call.
caught it, then why did they lose?
Because it gave him the ball back.
Well, if it wasn't a fumble, why the Raiders lose? So.
Yeah.
Well, because by the letter of the law, it wasn't a fumble, or it was a
Well,
fumble, but by the letter of the law, it wasn't a catch.
It was a catch. That was a catch. I don't know how much
Yeah,
more
but-
that could not. I don't know how much more that could be a catch.
I mean, if I was just watching it and didn't have the rules of the NFL in place, then I would agree it was a catch.
Well, I'm
But
saying the rules
rule-
are wrong. Like the
Well,
the
that's
rules
fair,
should-
but by the rules, it was not a catch, which is
It was a catch.
like
He
that.
ran. That's a football motion. He ran after he caught that ball.
He was falling, but okay,
He ran.
he was falling.
Okay, he stumbled. He
he-
took 2 steps. He stumbled.
He was
He
falling.
took 2 steps. It was a catch.
He was falling.
No, I'll
So
take
my
this season.
answer is the only other one that came to mind after 2001 SEC championship game was the Philadelphia New England Super Bowl in 2004, or it might have been the 2004 season, which would have put it in the game in 2005. Because I'm a Philly fan, unfortunately, and that was their one shot at. Maybe not their one shot, because they made it to like 4 straight NFC championship games before finally making it to the Super Bowl. But McNabb's throwing up in the huddle, and T.O.'s playing 6 weeks after breaking his leg, and
Still one of the best Super Bowl
Great.
performances I've ever seen.
I know it's unreal. And dude can't get in the Hall of Fame. It's insane.
I know.
Anyway, so I think I would change that one, and it would serve 2 purposes. Number one, it would get me, the Philly fan, a Super Bowl, but it would also take one away from Brady, which is good for the Peyton Manning fan and all of us. Which, I mean, we're all in agreement at this point. Like, Brady is the GOAT, right? Like, we don't need to talk about that. Even as Manning fans, like, you just have to accept it.
I'm a Brady fan. I like Brady. I like
I
Peyton
like
Manning,
Brady. I think Peyton's a better quarterback. That's just my personal opinion.
but I
There's
like Tom
difference
Brady.
between better and great.
I like.
I think
I
they
like
could. I think they
Hire.
could both be equally great. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So
I would never call Brady the GOAT. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. He's great.
Yeah,
I like him.
I
but,
forgot.
you know.
I'm talking to homers. Never mind. Scratch this conversation. Let's move on with it. Other things that I think would have been interesting to see, because I like to see history, would be like the 2016 NBA Finals. I wish the Warriors would have won, just so they could have capped off that 73 win team. Because it does have a big asterisk on it now, and I'm a Lakers fan.
That's right, because
It's not a
LeBron
Warriors.
dunked
He
it on
did
him.
exactly. He blocked it.
That's
Kyrie
it,
made
he
the
did.
shot. LeBron blocked but I still would have liked to seen that, because I like to see history, and so that would have been nice to see.
So you would have erased history to see more history, like because I come back from 3-0, especially against a team that won 70-something games.
3-1.
Like that's
At
almost
3-1
impressive.
comeback is 3-1
I'm
is
sorry.
not as cool as 73
Oh
win.
my gosh!
There have been 3-1 comebacks. That is not nearly as historic as capping a 7. There will never be another 73 win NBA team.
But there's only
never,
one 3-1 comeback against a 70-win team.
There has never been
like that's crazy
comeback when one player has dominated the way that LeBron James dominated that series.
That's not as cool as capping a 73. It's not. You're not going to win this one. Like, it's not as cool.
Oh,
it's impressive. I'm not taking away from LeBron, but I would have rather, for the sake of history, seen the greatness of the Warriors.
But Cavs was the first team in NBA history to come back from 3-1. So you're racing history to get more history.
No.
I mean, that was just
the Warriors had just done it, but okay.
In the NBA Finals.
Oh, well, that's not really all that cool because, teams come back from 3-0 all the time in other sports, so that doesn't.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen.
That's not nearly. It's not nearly as historic. It's not.
Oh, it is, man.
It's not.
It's one of the greatest comebacks.
You're a homer.
In
We just established this in the previous conversation.
It's one of the best comebacks in NBA history.
It is. I'm not taking away from that, but it's more historic to finish a 73-win season, a record-breaking season with a championship.
I think it's more historic to be like, sorry, guys. Your season sucks.
Nobody had ever done it. But did you say thugs? Like,
do what?
I'm not going there.
No,
anyway,
he said
sucks.
Sucks, not thugs.
I said LeBron was like, I don't care if you won 70 games.
It was impressive. I'm not taking away from that. It's more historic if the Warriors finish their run.
They won 70 games.
We'll just say this: whatever happened there in that season, obviously it would be a historic season regardless of what happened.
That's absolutely true. Yes, because what did happen is historic. That's absolutely. I agree on that.
The Bulls would win against that team anyway. So
we're not even getting those conversations.
Not doing it. No,
not doing it.
Because the Warriors would win in today's rules, and the Bulls would win in their rules.
Yes. I could think of one basketball game. I could think of the Suns being up 3-1 on the Rockets and just winning one of those games, because the Rockets went on the 95. No,
that was it. 95.
You win
their first championship. Right?
They went on to win their second championship, I think.
Yeah, that was the year they was the 6th seed.
95 was their second one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Suns are up 3-1, which if they would have won, they could have went on and beat. Because I was a huge Barkley fan. I was a huge Suns fan at the time.
Here's one for the Suns, and just to bring it up, I would change. What is it? Was it game 5 or 6?
When Amari got
suspended because his toe was on the court.
Yeah. And Big Shot Bob
destroyed Steve Nash.
That was a hockey check, man. Oh God, don't get me started on that one. That's the team that should have won a finals there too. But
those teams were so good, man.
Was Donahue on the court back then too?
I
think we should do a podcast where we can just trace when he's on the court and be like, all right, what happened with this game? Yeah. Is there anything we could point to?
So I think the crux of this conversation ends up being what games changed history, more or less, or series in some cases changed history. So a few more, like I posed this question to my other video game chat friends, and one of them is a huge UK fan. And his answer, and he probably didn't put a lot of thought into it because he was a little busy, but his answer, probably if he'd thought about it more, would be the Christian Laettner shot game. Mm-hmm. Because that was a Final Four game, right? It wasn't national championship.
It's Final Four.
That was Elite Eight. It wasn't even Final Four.
Elite Eight, yeah.
You're right. It was. You're right. But anyway, so Duke goes on to win the championship. So you just kind of figure UK would have had they won that game. But his answer was and maybe this one is still more historic, but at least you wouldn't see the Christian Laettner shot for the rest of your life. So maybe that is a good trade-off. But his answer was the 2015 Final Four game against Wisconsin. The Towns team, that team was stupid,
team was stacked, man,
and undefeated, and that was their first loss of the season. And I guess, and I, even as a Duke fan, I think that if Kentucky had made that game, they would have beaten Duke rather than Duke beating Wisconsin, which is what happened, because of course that's what happened. So I kind of do, maybe that is because they were undefeated, that changes it to, that is a bigger, a more historic loss in terms of UK basketball than the Laettner shot.
What year was it? You remember the USA basketball? I think it was like 80 or 84 or something like that.
Oh yeah, back when they could only play college players, they could play
Yep,
professional.
and they something had happened, and
It was
they
the
gave the other team
Russia.
like
The Russia referees.
Yep.
A
Yep.
lot of
They
Russia
gave them
messing
a
with
couple
stuff.
like 2 seconds back on the clock, and they throw it all the way down the court and turn around and hit basically another Christian Leitner shot. And
You know
USA
those,
never collects the medals.
Yeah, those medals are still in a safe or a vault somewhere. They never collected them.
Somewhere in Switzerland, yeah.
Yeah, that was messed up. I remember watching that game. I tell you, another game is the greatest foul on earth that was never called. Michael Jordan hitting that shot over Russell.
The push off.
The push off.
Yep.
Russell sat in the front row eating popcorn because Jordan pushed him across the court.
Mike Wilbon, he walked away. He had to walk. He was up in the press booth, and he said once Utah got the ball back, he was like, "They're done." He's like, "The Bulls are done." So he got in the elevator and went downstairs and watched the shot from the lobby on the TV.
Biggest foul ever. It was never called. I was so mad. I was so mad because I was a big Karl Malone and John Stockton fan back then, and I was so mad that happened. It wasn't called. I remember I was like, when was that? Was 90? Is that 97?
98 is the last one.
Yeah. So I was maybe first, second grade, and I was so mad. I can remember we watched it at I think we was watching it at my Aunt Mary's house. I was laying like with my head above my chin on my stomach watching the TV, and I was so mad when that happened.
Sports is awesome. I think somebody said, I don't know if it's Simmons or someone that said that sports is the best theater. Because there's always some kind of story, and there's always something going on with the game, whether it's a regular season game in the middle of June for baseball, or if it's an NBA Finals game. There's always something else going on. So
I could throw out one more before we finish this up. What about I believe it was the 2001 Daytona 500, his first race of the season. I think Andrew brought it up at the beginning of the podcast. If Dale Earnhardt hadn't crashed in the final turn, things would be a lot different today.
What about the Brock Lesnar Cain Velasquez fight? If Brock would have won that fight, would he still be going on? Just be dominant?
No. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I mean, it's there's you could just go on and on. Somebody could write a book, and I'm sure somebody has, but there's so many great teams. Like we talk about those Suns teams, and talk about the Tennessee team, talk about that Oakland team, which was a good Oakland team, and
Braves teams of the 90s.
Braves teams of the 90s. What happened if they didn't run into the Blue Jays and the Twins? And it's just crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's just you have these great teams that and we talk about all the time, especially championship stuff. Like all it takes is like one lucky thing, and you can
know what it really was with the Braves, right? From what I've read, because I was a little young, but from what I understand, the biggest problem with the Braves back in those 90s teams was that they kept pitching guys on 3 days rest.
Yeah, and they wore them out.
They had 3 of them. Just concede that 4th game. Just concede it, and then let them pitch the last 3 of the series and win. But anyway.
But it's just, I mean, these games have so much layers to them, and like I said, stories and theatrics and stuff like that. I still watch the 30 for 30 on the Boston Red Sox coming back from 3-0.
I love that one, man.
I mean, it's just
I don't even like
amazing.
Boston.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
that's an amazing documentary.
Yeah,
it's so good.
But
it even makes Fever Pitch watchable. The Jimmy Fallon, Drew Barrymore movie, like just because of.
That's what sports
knowing that when they made it, it was supposed to be about how the Sox never win, and then as they're filming it, it's like the Sox are going to win.
Which one? Which series was it that Boston? It was Boston Yankees, and Aaron Boone hit that home run.
That was the year before.
Was that the year before?
2003.
Yeah. He hit a walk off in like the 12th inning or something like that. Yeah.
And what happened if Steve Bartman wouldn't have caught that ball?
He didn't catch it. He just knocked it away. I don't think he catch it. He didn't catch it.
But what happened if that didn't happen? That was a stacked team too for the Cubs.
Well,
Simmons,
the Seattle team losing in the first round, the Yankees that year.
Yeah,
had the best record in baseball.
100 and some wins, 101 wins or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Simmons was talking about the Bartman play this week on his podcast, or no, not on his podcast, on the Cousin Sal podcast, the Against All Odds, the gambling podcast, and he said, there were several things that went on in that. Number one, there were a ton of other talking about how Bartman got a raw deal out of all that because he got the Cubs gave him a World Series ring this week. Sorry, I just dated it. That was not on purpose. But he said Bartman got a raw deal because there were several other fans reaching for the ball too, and Moises Alou, singled him out, yelled at him, and was being pretty much a huge dick about it. And it just spiraled out of control and went way, way too far. If it was a Yankees play, that probably doesn't happen because because they've won so many championships, they could keep their cool. But because the Cubs were the Cubs, then it's just like, they couldn't keep their head basically.
Yeah. Well, it also goes back
because of the pressure, and we saw that last year in the World Series. Like the pressure just changes when you haven't won one in that long.
Well, also thinking that play, that was you talked about the Braves running, those arms in the ground. Dusty Baker did the same thing with that Cubs team. After that season, Mark Pryor was nowhere near as dominant. Yeah. His arm was just done because Dusty would trot him out there on 3 days rest. He'd leave him out there for, the game would be done. He'd pitch in the 8th, and those decisions that you're like, man, what? You look back and you're like, man, this guy's on fire. They should keep him in. And you think, 10 years later, what happened if he'd have took him out in the 6th? What would have happened? They would have won probably, and his arm wouldn't have shot. And it was crazy.
What if the Nationals hadn't shut down Strasburg that year that he was dominant?
Yep. So I don't know, but sports is like I said, great theater, and we could talk about this,
or
if we want to.
It's last great reality series, basically.
Yep.
Why live games are going for so much now is because reality TV is such a big deal, and sports is it's almost, it feels like in a lot of ways our last opportunity at legitimate or real drama. Mm-hmm. And there are shows that are dramas that accomplish that, but sports gives it's so organic, I guess.
I think it's just the last form of entertainment. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. Like even with movies, how an action movie is usually going to go.
There's so many tropes, yeah.
Right. Even like a suspenseful movie or like a mystery movie, there's not too many ways you can tell those stories in a way that surprises people. That's why the ones that do are like, oh man, it's such a surprise. We've never seen that coming. And why those are usually considered great films because they did it once, because they either did it much better than someone else did, or it's the first time somebody's kind of thought about that process. But sports, I think, is that last kind of form of entertainment that I don't know what's going to happen next play. I don't know what's going to happen with this next pitch. That's why I'm watching.
It's the NBA, and then it's rigged, and you don't have to worry about it.
What if this one might hit Jared home, because you're a Red Wings fan, aren't you, Jared?
Yeah.
What if the Red Wings didn't win the 2007-2008 Stanley Cup and the Penguins won it, and you had 6 hockey titles and 6 football championships in Pittsburgh? That would be cool.
You could also say, what if Konstantinov didn't get in a car accident?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
After that's huge.
That's true.
Yeah. That changes.
Or we could,
I think, a big part of your team.
Or what about if Cleveland never moved to Baltimore the first time?
My favorite, and I wrote about this for the blog back when we were writing more, was what if Peyton Manning doesn't have 4 neck surgeries before the 2011 season? How does that change the entire face of the NFL? Because it changes a lot.
Mm-hmm. Or what if Ryan Leaf was chosen number 1 and Peyton Manning was chosen number 2?
Mm-hmm. Or what if Andrew Luck had come out
a year earlier
and gone to Carolina?
Yeah.
That's the NFL draft is probably any kind of draft. Like what kind of scenario? Like what happened if
depending on the quarterback? Yeah.
What happened if Carmelo would have went to Detroit instead of Darko? I think that's probably one of the most. By the way, there's a great piece about Darko on ESPN I read. And it was really, really good. If you haven't read it, it's about him and what he's done to get over basketball when he knew it was time to quit and stuff like this. It was actually a really good article.
That's what they talk about if you listen to the coaching staff at the time for Detroit. They were talking about like how they had private practices with him, and he was just sinking every shot, and he looked really good. They even worked out Carmelo. They said he looked better than Carmelo, and then he just didn't pan out. I mean, he missed his first dunk. His first shot was a dunk, and it missed.
Right.
You can't come back from that. Like, you know. And then he followed me to the Timberwolves. I'm like, oh God, not Darko. Get away, Darko.
And actually, he had a pretty good year for you guys when he was
He did. It was one of his. It was a turnaround year for him, but he didn't really turn around. But it was a really good year for him. But I think they've done an E60 piece on him this morning. I didn't get to watch it. I haven't recorded to watch, but poor Darko. He was supposed to be like the next big thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of next big things out there.
But you know, you can't blame the Pistons for doing it because they had Tayshaun.
That's true.
At small forward. I mean, Tayshaun wasn't a good scorer. He could score, but we all know Carmelo Anthony don't play defense. So
that's true, and that's maybe why they took him. I mean, I'm sure Darko had some kind of. I guess he could have rim protect. I don't know how good his defense was, but I mean, he's a 7-footer that can shoot threes, which is kind of unheard of even back then, like that.
Besides Nowitzki.
Yeah, that was it. And everybody was trying to find the next Dirk, right? Everybody was trying to find that 7-footer. Still are. Yeah.
Still are.
Yeah.
Except for the unicorn.
Giannis.
Porzingis.
Yep.
My phone's dying, so I'm gonna have to hop off here.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and end this. Yeah, we've talked a lot about the great subject there, so we'll save the other one, kind of carry it over to next week. But Jared, it's good to see you, man.
Good to see everybody. Good to be back.
Hopefully, we'll see you next week. We'll try to get a wrestling podcast done as well before you go to Mars or something. But see you, man. It's good. I'll see you later. And Andrew, Yeti, got anything else you want to add before we leave?
Yeah, don't go breaking my heart.
Oh,
your achy breaky heart.
I just blow up and kill this man. And watch out for midgets and Tinkerbell costumes.
Ah, Lord. All right.
Hey,
for Andrew, Jared, and Yeti, this is your editor-in-chief, Aaron, and this has been episode.
Play Fire Emblem Heroes.
Play Fire Emblem Heroes. Anything else before you want to mess up my outro again? Come on.
You should have just kept talking. No. I was just going
to. It was
just going to be a subliminal message that wasn't all that subliminal.
I'm sure Nintendo.
Try it again. Go ahead. We'll try it again.
All right. For Andrew Yeti, and this is your editor-in-chief. This has been episode number 46 of the Monsters of Geek podcast.
Fire Emblem Heroes.
Subscribe, and we are out.
No Battleground.